There's a couple birds foraging, or should I say gleaning is the bird language.
Gleaning?
Gleaning, as in moving through the forest and picking food, and it's gleaning, ornithology terms, right? But you asked me a question just a second ago.
Yeah.
And we've gone through a few different techniques of how to be in nature and how to be quiet and not disturb the area. We've walked maybe, I don't know, maybe a quarter mile or so around and have had some time out here. And what was the question that you asked me a second ago?
I said, are you, how did I say it? It was a weird way of saying it.
Is your mind always
Is your
like
mind
this?
always like this?
Which means what? Because can you articulate what you are actually asking? I haven't answered, by the way.
So I notice when I'm with you, your energy is very different than most people that I hang out with.
Okay. In what way?
In that your energy, if you want to talk chakras, you don't need to.
Talk whatever you want.
Yeah, your energy is much lower. And so that's why I asked that.
Lower or calmer?
Well, it could be, you could use either word, but I see it as...
I'm not tired.
No, that's not what I mean.
Exactly,
it's like,
so articulate what you mean.
Yeah, so I notice with me, when I'm up and busy and doing things and, scrolling and doing all that stuff, my energy's up here. It's up here.
Okay.
And when I'm out in nature or hanging out with you, energy lowers.
So grounded.
Grounded, you could say that.
Okay.
Yeah. Or no, more centered.
Centered, grounded, here and now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what you mean by, is your mind always like this?
Yeah.
And I would have to say, I practice being grounded and centered majority of my life since my youth. I would say, as a child, I was definitely high energy as far as like running around and climbing trees,
right.
But I was still pretty centered.
Yeah.
So as I got older, my motions have slowed down.
Yeah.
But I think practicing, just being where I am and really trying to pay attention to what's happening around me has dropped me more deeper into the earth.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean I'm always like that. I mean, I have family issues and I have, relationship stuff and, there's all kinds of things that are going on around me. So I think by practicing that way, I'm able to deal with some things differently than others.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not another person, so I can't speak for other people.
Yeah. Well, I can speak for me. And I mean, this is something that shift is everything. That shift, and again, being in higher energy areas, like you're saying, when you were a kid, but you can also be energetic, but also, like you're saying, be centered.
Sure.
And I think our world is so also detached. So that's another part of this, is that the connection. So when we go out in nature and we're here, and we've got a lot of friends over there, it's something in me shifts, and it takes that, it's like I'm connecting, and like you were showing me how to walk, and what you were talking about is bringing that center of energy inward, right? Yep. Remember you said tuck the tailbone in, and you said crouch your knees like you're doing Tai Chi. You're bringing that center of energy into a new place.
Right. So a lot of times I'll teach tracking. I talk a lot about the normal human walk, which usually has a head down, hand up with something in it, and their head is leading them somewhere, and their awareness is zero, only to what they're paying attention to, whatever's in their hand. Difference is that their head is leading them wherever they're headed. So whatever they're thinking, if you want to look at it in a mystical point of view, their head is actually creating their reality, their perception.
Yes, exactly.
The shift of that is like a dancer. A dancer doesn't move with their head; they move with their center. So they're really focused on their belly moving them forward, and then their legs leading the way. And they can spin, they can do all kinds of different motions. So that's definitely more centered within the body. That doesn't mean I'm inside my head centered. That might mean I'm still open and aware,
Yeah.
but my body is definitely grounded. And it slows you down a lot. I mean, it allows you to, in my experience, it allows me to contemplate and think about the things that I'm moving through, and then letting it go.
Yeah.
And then having that no thought for a little while.
Yeah.
And then a thought comes back and I contemplate that, but I can do it with fresh perspectives.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I notice that when I'm here, you know, and I would say, like, and it is almost, I think most people, I don't want to say most people, but I think we tend to, I know myself even, tend to be almost out of your body, you know, or like you're saying, in the head. I mean, that's our whole society is built on this. You know, you have the head of state, the head of everything is focused on the head. Like, that's what we put our focus on. But really what we're talking about is bringing that downward. And so I notice when I'm feeling that frenetic energy going in nature and bringing it back down.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which enables you to perceive differently.
Completely differently.
And it enables you to be able to be taught.
Exactly.
You know? I keep hearing what it sounds like clapper rails, but I've never heard clapper rails in this area. Normally they're a marsh saltwater species, but that sounds like a clapper rail. And they're a lot of times they're called marsh hens. You never really see them. They're always in the bushes. But I mean, they make this gaggle laugh, almost like a crone's laugh. And they get going, and all of them will start to get going. And then the next group and the next group will start get going. And it's pretty interesting. It's a neat communication. Right now we have ibises and little blue herons behind us gleaning, probing.
I love the word gleaning. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that in my daily work.
It's a fun word.
Yeah, but I had mentioned to you on the phone the other day about mental health and connecting with nature, and how, I don't know, what do you think, how do you think, I'm not sure of my question, but what do you think can help people who are struggling and suffering and having depression and having anxiety? How, as a nature guide, what do you think is the remedy to that?
It's a very dangerous question to answer. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I am a life coach, so I'm a certified life coach in that realm. But life coaching is more about reflecting back what you hear from another, and they, Carl Jung style, they are figuring out what they need.
Yes,
and you're reflecting back, and sometimes you don't hear yourself, so you reflect back to them what you hear, and they're like, I said that, oh yeah, and then they dig deeper. So I think nature does that naturally.
Yes.
So an old native elder said to me a long time ago, looks like you're going through something. I said, I am. He goes, go tell it to a tree. He didn't sit me down and try to analyze me. He said, go tell it to a tree. And I said, well, what does that do? He goes, go find out, you know? And so he knew I was intuitive enough to be able to sit with that tree and kind of go into, so I leaned back against one of the biggest trees I could find and just leaned back into it and allowed myself to just go into that no mind space.
Right.
And I did feel a shift of energy, and I did feel a cleansing that happened. Yeah. Now, did I come out with any great epiphany? No. But more and more you do it, the more closer you become closer to that. Yeah. And it was, the healing for me was just the clearing of whatever the issue was at that time. Right. Now, you went on a kayak trip with me. And we did this sit for 10, 15 minutes. I separate everybody so they're not looking at the next kayaker, and they're not moving, so they're stuck on the side of the bank somewhere. And when I came to collect everybody, I had to get your attention a little bit more than I had to other people, because you were literally touching a tree. What was going on for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess I would say I'm weird that way. But I think in a good way. I was hanging out with the tree, and when you're like, Becky, it's time to go, and I was like, I kind of want to be like, hey, F you, you know, like, I'm like, no, I'm having a good time here.
Well, actually, how I started it, I did a cricket call.
Did you?
And you didn't hear that, so I did a little bit louder of a cricket call, And then once I got closer, you heard the ripples, I think, from my paddle, and you looked over to me, and I motioned. I said, "Come this way," and you're like, you did give me that look, like I want to stay. But that's what I'm saying. Go tell it to a tree.
Exactly.
So
and
when you
so,
were telling it to a tree, what happened?
well, it's an interesting process because it's not, it's not like sitting with a therapist and like getting this kind of like human feedback. There's something when you get quiet like that, and it's not audible. It's not like, sometimes it is. Sometimes you do get audible messages, but it's more almost, there's almost like it is like a communication. It's like you're getting so quiet that you're feeling, and the tree is talking, and is the tree saying something? Does that tree even know? I have a feeling it did.
Well, science has already proven that it does know you're there. And it does know you were touching it.
Yeah.
Probably even knows what color shirt you were wearing.
Yeah. Well, that's even better.
Well, science is starting to prove that.
Yeah. And so it was this kind of, I don't know, it's like a nonverbal, I don't know, but all the answers are there. And that sounds so weird, because they're really, it's not like I could go home and be like, oh, the tree told me, Becky, you need to stop doing this and you need to do more of this, and go, sometimes that happens, but more the tree just acknowledges me and I acknowledge the tree, and somehow that heals the situation.
So I found a lot of times people that are going through difficulties, me included, and we all go through this as we grow up, this I'm not worthy kind of attitude. Mm-hmm. So where does that come from? We could go deep into that and go explore that, but that's not what we're here to do. But the I'm not worthy shifts, I think, when you're connecting with nature, when you're grounded, when that thought's not even there anymore.
No.
But the fact of it is you are alive.
Yeah.
And you have this special gift of life.
Yeah.
So being worthy isn't even a question in nature. You are worthy. So if you can let that go, all of a sudden, all that information that's already within us, that's in the universe, that's already in nature, comes out within you. So Becky, the crying little girl, might have come up to the tree, but Becky, the elder, the wisdom and the eldership of being connected comes out at that time. That's what I think happens.
Yeah. Yes.
So there's no question about worth anymore.
Right.
Because a person that's I'm not worthy is not going to be able to solve anything.
No.
They're just going to be...
No. And again, that's going into your head. It's going into what I would call a false space.
It's interesting. I'm noticing that we're being really loud right now. Normally when you're making this much disturbance in the natural area, that the birds kind of leave. But I'm noticing there's a bunch of smaller birds. I'm not sure what they are. I can't see them, but they're all in these trees and they're moving around and they kind of come closer to us. So I don't know. Maybe they're tuning into something.
Maybe they're learning something too. I think.
Didn't mean to cut you off. Though.
No. But what you said about the I'm not worthy, that's such a human thing. It's such a human thing. Like these trees and these birds, I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, but aren't sitting here wallowing in their self-pity.
No.
They're not, the duck isn't saying like, oh, I'm not worthy. And, oh, you're going back to past traumas. My mom told me I wasn't worth anything, or they're not doing that. And so that's just this kind of upper level. I call it upper level stuff.
Okay.
When you sync up, it changes.
Right.
Like you're saying, it's not about worthiness.
No.
It's about like, we're all worthy because we're part of this.
We're part of the big family called Earth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we call Earth.
Yeah.
But like a tree doesn't need a ceremony to realize it's a tree.
No.
Humans seem to.
Yeah.
We need habits or behaviors or repetitive things to remind us who we are. We need friends to tell us that. We need our job to tell us that. We need all these things. We don't really need that. We just are. If I go and cut the top of that tree, it's not going to cry and die. Mm-hmm. It's going to try to stay alive and grow more. Mm-hmm. So, that's the difference,
Yeah.
An eagle doesn't need a ceremony to know it's an eagle. It just does eagling things.
Right.
I don't know if that's a word, but hey, there it is.
So going back to the first question, me asking you, is this how you normally are? I think that's how I asked it. Is this how you normally are? I think what I wanted to know is AyoLane the person, the local Lorax, is like, are you able to stay here more than the average person?
I think the more I stay in nature, the more I am. Mm-hmm. The more I go to crowded areas, the more agitated I get. I'm also ADHD from, youth, and I've learned to be able to, to work within that superpower, I call it. Mm-hmm. But when I get into large crowds, I hear every conversation. I hear every emotion. Do I hear the depth of each one? No. Mm-hmm. But I can hear snippets of each piece, which becomes distracting and fills my head with sounds and words and thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So when I get to those spaces where it's okay, it's too much, I leave. Yeah. So I used to, in my youth, I'd be at a party or something, and I'd go climb a tree.
Yeah.
I mean, I was that guy.
Yeah.
But I would watch from afar and be in the woods and tune back in, and then I could come back into the crowded spaces again.
Interesting.
So, I mean, yes, I am this way, and at times, no, I am completely lost. And when I get into that self-worth thing, and I get into the pity thing, and I think it's not about avoiding that or pushing that away. I think it's about accepting that it's there and moving through it.
Yeah.
So somebody said to me, when you find yourself walking in hell, don't sit down and enjoy the heat. Keep walking. You'll find your way out.
Yeah.
And time is an amazing thing. I mean, does it exist? Does it not? That's a whole other topic. But if you have an injury or something that happens, give it time before you go and confront it. Allow yourself that time to go into that no mind space and then come back to it, and you might find a different perspective. If you come at it was in the anger state or in the confused state or the hurt state or the poor me state or whatever state that is, that's high emotions, that becomes your guide. And I think that usually it makes things a lot worse. But if you can stop and regroup inside yourself and go be quiet for a moment, you probably come back with a different perspective. Not probably, I know you will come back with a different perspective.
Yeah. So I had an interesting experience yesterday. I had a panic attack, which I don't think I've ever officially said I've had a panic attack before. And it was almost like going into shock. Like I was shaking all over. And it was, so again, that's that high frenetic energy. And so I found friends. I got on the phone with people who were calmer. I synced up with them. And I just sat. I sat for an hour. I just sat in the chair. I know how to do this, and we all do, actually. We all have this. It's not a special gift. It's just something we need to practice.
Yeah, sometimes we need help from others to help show us how to do it. But that's why we are tribal people. Even though our society closes our doors at our neighbors, we don't bring pie to them when they move in anymore. That doesn't happen. Yeah. But I think we are evolved to be tribal people. Yeah. So you have an elder or you have a medicine person or whatever that you would go to for advice. Right. And that person isn't going to dig in you and try to heal you, but that person's going to ask you questions or reflect and try to get you to a place where you know that you have a gift of healing whatever this is or moving through whatever it is, trusting that you are a wise creature too that is tapped into everything as well and help bring you to that place so you know it.
And we were asking, what is a medicine person? And maybe, and that's a big question, and we didn't really get an answer to that. But maybe, and you can answer this in your own way, but maybe we are all healers in that we learn to heal ourselves. Right. And we can be that for each other.
Yeah, I think there's different levels to it. That's a dangerous question these days that I said before is the asking question of what is a medicine person? And I think indigenous people never called themselves that per se. Even the Celtic people or the African people, they didn't call themselves medicine people. Most of the time what I've heard and through the oral traditions is they called themselves helpers. They just had one thing or another that they learned that they can pass on to you so you can learn it too. Of course you have herbal medicine folks who know the correct mixtures, but you can learn that too. So, and that's the whole thing, is it's not one person gets this little gift and nobody else can have it. It's we all kind of share this and we pass this around. But I'm not a medicine person. I'm not a medicine man. I'm not any of those things. So, um, what right do I have to say who makes one or doesn't make one? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of cultures work with dreams and
Mm-hmm.
visions. So you have
Mm-hmm.
the Aborigines of Australia, you have like the Lakota people, you have a lot of different people that work through dreams. Um, and it's helpful to have a wise person who has lived a life
Yeah.
to be able to help you interpret it.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
why? Why do we need somebody else? And I've had people say, well, I know what my dream means. I don't need nobody interpreting it. It's like, no, you don't necessarily. However, um, sometimes ego gets in the way of
Mm-hmm.
interpretations
Mm-hmm.
and we want it to mean something
Mm-hmm.
or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll take it that direction
Yeah.
without having somebody to go, wait, let's look at something real quick.
Yeah.
Let's reflect a little bit.
Yeah.
And then usually truth will come out then. So
Yeah.
I test people, if I take them on as an elder,
Mm-hmm.
or I take them on as somebody that I want to go to for wisdom, um, I'll test them a little bit. I'm not conscious. I haven't been conscious of this most of my life, but recently in the past, 4 or 5 years, I've been more conscious of it. And for me, it's not testing them like putting them through a SAT test or something. It's more of what would you do if this happened. Or I'll
Mm-hmm.
have something happen in a little thing and just say, okay, well, what do you see on this? Are they bringing me to a place of them empowered,
Yeah.
or are they
Yeah.
bringing me
Yeah.
back to myself
Yes.
to
Yes.
understand what I'm moving through,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, or giving me some help in that direction and
Mm-hmm.
allowing me to make that decision?
Right.
So which one is going to last longer?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
person that comes in and fixes the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that might not have been the problem. That might have just been the symptom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that problem's going to come back up in a new way.
And so when seeking help, you want to find people, because again, I keep going to this because I do see this as energetic placement. And it's like if someone is reaching out and I'm going to help you and I'm going to pull you out, that's a very different thing than I am here and I'm going to hold this space while you do this work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's one level.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's many levels to it.
Yeah.
And again, like I've seen things that I can't explain.
Yeah.
Um, that was some disturbance that happened over there, but it wasn't us because they came closer. So, um, yeah, I don't. I've seen things like I said that I can't explain. So, there are other levels that I think we can experience. I don't know if we'll ever have anything figured out until maybe the day we cross the river, the sacred river, the day we die. Maybe then we'll have our answers. But it's always a good idea to explore.
Yeah.
It's always a good idea to experience, as long as you're not harming another or manipulating another's energy. I have a hard time with people that do that. You don't have my permission. You don't need to be doing anything like that. So everything to me is back into the natural world. I think all the answers are out in the natural world. Unfortunately, our society thinks the natural world is wasteland and should be used as resources, which I don't agree. I think the living life of nature has its own value within itself.
Yeah.
I don't think we have to mow it down and put an HOA to show value of that space. We were talking about, our society's creating these machines now to take carbon out of our air. Like
Right.
they're spending money and resources and making money by creating these
Right.
machines to take
Right.
carbon out of the air. And we have a natural tool that does it completely for free. And they're called trees.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean like, oh, I mow down a row of trees, get the wood out of it, and I plant new trees, therefore there's more trees. Well, that's one way of looking at it, but there's a difference between a 2,000-year-old tree and a just hatched out of a seed tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
And as we learn in science, and I find it very fascinating that learning that trees communicate and speak and actually recognize people and things, and we're learning so much right now through technology, that trees do communicate, just like that old elder told me when I was really young. We're going to find out probably that there's information stored in there. And if we cut down all the 1,000, 2,000, whatever year old trees, all that information's lost. gone.
Yeah.
When one day we might actually be able to tap in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we could tap in anyway. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of talking, but
No. So I think to wrap up, I had a question for you, and now it's oh, so are we? And maybe this is a big question. This could be a whole other podcast. Is are we anything separate from this? Is it humans and this? And here you and I are sitting here as humans in our clothing and our camera and all of this stuff. Are we anything separate from this? Are we special? Are we something?
well, it depends on who you talk to and what perspective that you're going to say from, right?
Right.
I would say yes, and I would say no. So I'm not a scientist. I don't have the answers of archaeological digs of 250,000 years ago when that chromosome was changed. That doesn't make sense that it was changed. But
Right.
I don't know. But I think it's also a choice.
Yeah.
Do you want to be separated?
Mm-hmm.
Do you not want to be separated? I think an eagle knows he's an eagle and does his thing, right?
Yeah.
Or her thing.
Yeah.
A human, the change that I see is we do have a choice. We can choose to tune in and dig our toes into the sand and feel that as an amazing experience, or we can choose to not.
Right.
We can say, oh, that's gross, it's mud, and I don't want that on my feet. My pedicure is going to get messed up. That's our choice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
which one are you choosing? Which one feels better?
And at which cost? At what cost? So yes, a pedicure and I.
Not saying pedicures are wrong.
No,
by
no,
any
no, no,
means.
no, no.
However, are you letting your fear guide you?
Yeah.
Or your
Or
emotions guide you?
Yeah. Are you right? Exactly. And so right, pedicures and all of this stuff.
Sorry, all you pedicure people out there. I don't mean to not stomping on your parade.
No, but I do notice with people that, I was just talking to some friends because we were sitting by a fire and I took off my shoes and my friend said, two friends said, I really should be getting my feet touching the ground a little bit more, but it's hard for me. It's hard for me to take off my shoes. And
that's the moment, if they were interested, to dig into why and really distill it down to the core.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You know?
And that tells me a story about who they are, and not a bad story.
No.
It just tells me a story of, okay, feet touching earth sets them off. And so like you said, just ask the question, okay, why?
Right.
Yeah.
If you're willing to explore it, you can do that with just about anything.
Yeah.
So what's happening with me? Okay, let's go to the core of it. Let's distill it down. Well, that person did this. Well, let's go a little bit farther. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's go a little bit deeper. And if you can distill it down, you can usually find one core. And often has to do with fear of some sort.
Yeah.
When it's an issue.
Yeah.
It often has to do with love if it's not an issue.
Exactly.
So, but I mean, where's that coming from? Is that coming from a taught? Is that coming from something that you've experienced? Is that coming from a trauma? Is that coming from a pleasurable experience? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's usually a good way to start with that. I found. Again, I'm not a psychiatrist or a therapist, but I go back to nature.
Yeah. But maybe it's time, I will say this, maybe it is time that we move away, we do, yes, psychiatry, yes, psychology, and bringing it here.
I think it's an all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's a black or white.
Yeah.
I think most nature has a lot of gray area. I don't know if black and white's the dualistic mindset is the way we need to be. Even though we're all raised in it, at least American societies are.
We should wrap up.
All right.
All right.
Do you want to grab the camera and do a 360 and just kind of show where we're at?
Yeah, but I want to just say thank you guys for listening. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you're on Facebook, please like and share.
Yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed this and you'll come along another journey with us. See you later.